Thanks for staying with us on Point. Now, the Department of Labour has embarked on a roadshow across the country to try and educate employers about the Employment Equity Amendment Bill that was adopted by Parliament last week. The bill seeks to amend the Employment Equity Act of 1998, which has largely failed to transform the labour landscape in the country to reflect the country's demographics, especially top and senior management levels. The new law is expected to be finalised in March next year and will empower the Minister of Labour and Employment to set sector-specific employment equity targets and to issue employment equity compliance certificates to companies vying for government tenders. Let's get more on this. I'm now joined by Employment and Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News today. Minister, the opposition, the Democratic Alliance, has criticised the proposed amendments to the Act, saying it's a job-destroying jackhammer. What's your response to that?
Well, what we know is about the Democratic Alliance has always, since 1995, opposed all labor legislation which was trying to liberate the workers. And even here, when we're talking about the transformation of the labor market, there have been resistance. If you look into the figures which we are talking about, you will find that with the top management and the middle management, they are still in control. It's the representative there is just white male, and the black people and the women are down in the ladder. So what is very clear is that this bill represents or it's part of our continuing task to transform the labor market, because we have given them a number of years and to do it on their own. It's evident from the data that self-regulation by the employers to achieve this objective of this act is simply, it has not worked. Hence the urgent need to review the legislations and the regulations.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're talking about the DP, not the DA, because the DA was only formed in 2000. But according to the latest Employment Equity Annual Report by the Employment Equity Commission, Africans still account for only 15% of top and senior management positions in the country, and women account for around 25%. So that's obviously a failure to transform, to look how our country looks. How do you plan to change that under the proposed new law, as the previous laws have not seem to work?
Well, that's the reason why we're saying the minister must be empowered, Minister of Employment and Labour, so that can be able to regulate the sector-specific employment equity targets. Well, of course, that would not be done unilaterally. It will be after consultation with the sector concerned and the various stakeholders, and even the advice of the employment the Commission for Employment Equity. So that is the intention, is to look into the different sectors where they are and start talking about what targets should be met within a particular period. And if people do not meet that, amongst them, we are going to be able to deny them certain rights. For instance, we can deny them the rights that they are not allowed to access the tenders of government if they want to do business with government until they are able to comply with the law.
All right, so you're currently conducting workshops for employers to prepare them for what's coming. Talk to us about the kind of response that you've had so far from those workshops.
Very interesting, Zinga. The employers are responding in the various workshops. We have already run about 3 provinces now. We are going still to the other provinces. We might come back to the other provinces. And they are enjoying this because they come in their numbers in order to seek clarity and to say where would they have the exemptions. Remember that we are also talking about, we don't want to burden the small employers, and we are saying when it comes to the small employers who are employing less than 50 employees, they will be exempted from complying with this act. However, those small employers will be required to comply with the provisions of the Act dealing with the elimination of all forms of discrimination. So we won't be hard on the small employers who are less than 50 like we will do with the big companies. So it's very clear that we are explaining how the Act is going to work, how it's going to affect the employers and the different sectors.
All right, so we've spoken about the challenges that have come with the previous act and the changes that you're making in order to make sure that you are successful in kind of transforming that space. Outside of legislation, what are you doing to try and encourage people who are reticent or some people who are completely opposed to transformation to try and change that mindset?
Well, our approach is very simple. It's not just a punitive approach. It's a corrective approach. Is to engage with them through these workshops, to allow them to make representations as the different associations, as the different sectors, and we persuade them, because the power in South Africa, we've been able to reach consensus on very difficult issues, and we've done that through the power of persuasion, and at the end, the powerful reason will rule. It's not just about threatening and forcing the people. So that's what we are doing at the moment, but if we're forced to come to the last approach or to our last strategy, which would be we will have to charge the people if they are violating the law.
All right, so there's been a lot of discussion on vaccine mandates at the moment, which some big private companies are starting to implement, and some people expressing unhappiness with that. What does your department have in terms of power to issue regulations in this regard?
We do come up with the regulations in relation to the issue of occupational health and safety matters. This matter which you're talking about, it's a matter of occupational health and safety. And we have directives, and our directives are very clear here, is to say vaccination, even at the workplace, it's not mandatory. And there are certain steps which have to be followed by the employers when they deal with the vaccination, or they have to execute the vaccination for their workers. And those steps are very clear, is that they must develop the proper plans, the risk plans of the workplaces. And remember that the workplaces differ from one another, the different sectors. There might be those where the risk is very high. And we say to them, let them develop those plans in consultation with the workers. And then before they can do that, let them consult on those plans again with the workers and explain the rationale for such vaccination. That's where we stand. It's not mandatory.
All right. Minister of Employment and Labour, Thulas Nxesi, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Nxesi.